All right, me. It is the same day that I finished the class menagerie, and in the rest of the time, for substituting, as well as another like 20 minutes at home, I finished reading "Smoke Gets in Your Eyes" and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin and Doughty. I just recently picked up this book. It's very, very, very nice read. It is this fascinating exploration through and with people's experiences with death and what death actually looks like, right? And not just, the experiences of people around us dying, but rather the ritualistic aspects of death and how that is done in the world that we live in today, right? Within a modern America. It goes through Caitlin's own life story, in which she chose to become a crematory operator and then initially started a career out of working in the mortuary world, and then eventually writing this book. And it actually all starts with her seeing someone very suddenly pass away or die at a very young age. As the story goes, is that as Caitlin was at a Halloween event at a mall, I think Caitlin said that she was 8 at the time. As she was yelling out to her dad, on the floor below, a young girl, so probably about not necessarily the age, but 5-year-olds old or so, attempted to climb over a railing to get onto an escalator, and fell, and ended up dying from her injuries. And that sparked this, as a younger child, this obsessiveness over rituals and how do we protect ourselves from dying, right? Which is a very, very common thing that ends up being diagnosed with OCD, right? And this is legitimate OCD, of where a person feels that there needs to be a specific ritual, or certain things need to happen, or certain impulses need to happen in order for things to be safe, right? And so that developed into Caitlin at a young age because of this. Caitlin says that she eventually grew out of it, which possibly, right, certainly, but that's that. And then beginning the career into being someone who works at a crematory, right, and working with constantly dead bodies and what that is actually like for a person, right? And it is a great deal of speculation about death and life and about how we treat dead people, right? One of the big things that Caitlin eventually goes on about is, as she has started working with embalming and those sorts of things, which is a very different aspect of the death industry, just the idea or the concepts of that we as humans are trying to put off death as much as possible, right? And that's what Caitlin eventually kind of ties everything into, right? Is that the Western civilization has come so far in trying to stave off death and not deal with death in any sort of way whatsoever, that very often people that are supposed to know the laws, especially with in regards to hospitals, in regards to officers, in regards to, even funeral homes and field directors, of just straight up lying to people about laws that are in place because we assume that people are not willing to spend any time with a body at all, right? Which is one of these really, really fascinating things, right? And yeah. I feel like I've definitely talked about like concepts that are in here before. I feel like I've definitely talked about humans and Western civilization and American civilization's unwillingness to see death, right? We love to see violence, but not death, right? And we push everything so that all dying occurs somewhere else, right? And then we just get to see the end product, right? And Doughty goes into some of the history of that, of the rise of mortuary science within the U.S. Yeah. It's a piece that is very much like it is so interesting to read, but it's so, I think, hard to really accurately describe what's happening without just retelling the stories, right? Because it is so very much based in the personal experience of how do we work with the dead, right? And what are people's reactions to us working with the dead, right? And that's something that Doughty really struggled with, of where you go into the space and it is a career and a path that is so taboo, but not taboo because it is like, it's not sexily taboo, right? It is just taboo. It's just this thing that we're not supposed to talk about, that people die. And because of that, along with having recently moved to a new city, of just not ever being comfortable with herself, and then eventually getting to the point of where she seriously considers taking her own life, not because of this necessarily complete and absolute destruction around her, but rather it is this feeling of being in a world that is so enveloped by death that there is nothing else that in the world, because, right, everyone else thinks that you're strange and you're weird and you're taboo and you're blacklisted from everything, right? And it is not until she is able to then move on from the death industry and those sorts of services into being able to work with it academically in writing books like these, that things are really comfortable again, right? And that's all just this fascinating thing, right, of where, these are people, right? And these are real things that we have to deal with, right? And as we, consistently proliferate this idea that we need to live longer, this only becomes more and more prevalent, right? Of where people are living longer and therefore more people are alive and therefore more people are also dying, right? Just it's fascinating and it's funny it's morbid, but it's not morbid in the way that it's like, this is terrifying to interact with. It is morbid in the sense of macabreness, I guess, right? Yeah. I think that's it for this book. It's fascinating. It really is, but I don't know if I can fully articulate what my feelings are for this. But yeah, that is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Kit and Doughty. Yeah.